I suppose we can start. Today, as a co-host, we have the head of the Social Links Center of Excellence, Dmitry. Dmitry, say hello. Dmitry specifically has background in cybersecurity, and we are going to explore some aspects of open source intelligence in the context of cybersecurity. So, Dmitry, please go ahead with your part.
Yeah, let me share my screen. Do you see the presentation?
Yes.
Great. So first, let me say a couple of words about Social Links, our company. So we are a global open source intelligence tool developer based in the US with representative offices in the Netherlands and Latvia. And since the company establishment in 2015, we deliver all-in-one OSINT solutions that empower investigators and security professionals to perform data-driven investigations. And about our products, we have a SL Professional for Maldiga and I2 SL Private Platform and Private Solution and SL API. And in today's webinar, we are offering a little gift, 10% discount on SL Professional for new customers. Please know that we can only give the discount to the first 5 customers who filled out the request form on the QR code. And who told our managers at the demo that they came from the discount from our webinar. Also, we will share our cybersecurity white paper with those who will stay till the end of the webinar. So, who am I? Let me introduce myself. I'm a founder of OSINT Mindset Community. We have 15K subscribers of our Telegram channel and 4K members of the investigation forum for the education in OSINT field. And I conducted more than 10 OSINT meetups and even 2 OSINT educational courses for cybersecurity students and for private investigators. Also, I'm organizer of OSINT Amsterdam meetups. The next one will be in Amsterdam on August 16. You can follow the QR code and register. Please book a seat. And I'm the organizer of DEFCON 7495 speaker in lots of meetups, cybersecurity conferences. Now I'm head of OSINT Center of Excellence in Social Links. We're a department who making our own investigations, trainings, internal and for customers. We are helping to make our tools better and of course to sell our products. I'm a developer of Migra and other OSINT tools. Maybe you've heard about me from this field. And I wrote some articles and guides about OSINT and privacy. And the main thing that I love investigate and build tools to make it easier. So that's why I'm here. And why do we need OSINT in cybersecurity? So I guess that almost all the participants understand what is penetration testing, and now a lot of tools and methods assisting during the reconnaissance stage of the pen test. So that's why I just show a couple of cybersecurity cases in different domains to make an overview of the different applications of OSINT. And the first case, what situation did I have? I got a complaint from a customer of a big platform regarding a block of access to the site from his subnet. By the way, of course, all the names here and further on the diagrams are fake, keep in mind. But the domain in the email address was really strange, something similar to I'm a typical ISP. I had only an email address and one his subnet, so it was a start point for my investigation. What I did, of course, I conducted a search for all the rest of the subnets owned by this person. I understood that some of them were still in the process of transferring and contained all his data with a suspiciously similar email address like a good internet provider one. Then I got historical quiz data for domain and to get the same email address. So it was not a coincidence. For some reason, this person was not so careful, but was cunning, and he decided to change the ownership of his subnets to some contact looking more respectable. Of course, I continued to search from email address and found the social media account page with a specified email address. It was a page of successful IT businessman selling proxy IPs. I checked his official site for proxy selling and found in list of supported platforms my company. As you can guess, I didn't unblock subnet of this person. I blocked all the subnets owned by him instead. And as a result, this person removed mention of my company from proxy selling site because he didn't find the workaround and didn't get in general why is he untrustworthy. So the second case is much simpler, but still demonstrative. There was a sample of the malware, not very high quality though. With some simple tools, they were extracted some strings containing debug information about the executable path and file name, and also some credentials used by this malware for uploading victims' files. Names of malware and developer extracted from path and file name led to the .NET forum thread with a discussion of this malware. The topic starter was the developer, and the email address led directly to administrative panel, where again, after login with these credentials, we was found a mention of its developer. Sorry. This developer also had an account in Telegram for support, and there was a possibility to find a phone number linked to the account. Thus, the identity of the actor controlling the malware was revealed. And the third case about OSINT in cybersecurity, it's more interesting. It's close to brand protection stuff, but it was really breathtaking for me. I think you've heard of Nigerian scammers, so I faced them during some cybersecurity protection activities for companies having their communities in Telegram. The fraud schema was very simple: to create a Telegram account, check who's the administrator and managers in Telegram group, and copy photo, name, username of one of them. Usernames were not the same, but very similar ones with a change of one digit to a letter and so on. So then scammers, after copying all the personal information, wrote to participants in chats with some special offers trying to get money. And they were very successful sometimes. So successful that I decided to automate OSINT work to fight against this threat. So I made a very efficient automation to search for accounts with the names, usernames, and photos similar to admins. The search was conducted in lots of groups and as a general search in Telegram through API. Then my bots chatted with accounts suspected of scam and were getting evidence like financial details, fake offers, and even IP addresses sometimes get with IP loggers. So it was a kind of automated social engineering. Then evidence was processed in some specific way, so most of the accounts were deleted afterwards. So hope these cases were interesting. I remind you that you can ask questions in the chat and in Q&A section. We will answer at the end of the webinar. So what about OSINT usage in cybersecurity in general? It's obvious that cybersecurity is a big field of different disciplines. We in Social Links split these disciplines into 3 categories, different in the way of OSINT usage. The first is threat intelligence. It's not only about TI activities, but about proactive search at all, searching and identifying the threats to understand the attack vectors, TTPs, tools, and so on. So we call it proactive defense. The second is exposure assessment, the collective title of different activities like pen testing, asset management, patch and vulnerability management. In a high level, it's a part of the understanding of the perimeter of organization. Initiators could have different intentions, but actors will conduct the same passive or active gathering of information. So we call this category attacks simulation. The third category includes post-incident actions, digital forensics, incident response, and general investigation stuff. So we call it reactive defense. What could be, who could be interested in all this stuff? Of course, it's threat intelligence teams and threat protection teams. It's security operation centers who are trying to be ready to new attacks, to new actors, to new threats. About exposure assessment, it's red, blue, purple teams, pen testers, of course, and some security guys who are making vulnerability patch asset management activities. And about investigations, of course, digital forensics teams, incident response teams, and cybercrime departments, including LIA departments. If you don't fit into this classification, write to us in chat. It's very interesting for us, all the new applications and all that don't fit into our model of real world. So what are we looking for usually during some processes in these activities? Here I will give some examples of some of the goals that could be achieved with the use of OSINT in cybersecurity. Of course, there are lots of use cases, and some of them Ivan will show you later. And here I will highlight on the most important ones and those that we encounter very often. So it's important in case of cyber attacks, including APTs, to be able to resist, contain, and conduct effective investigations in order to enhance security. So OSINT help to determine the profile of the attacker, starting from indicators of compromise and ending with a set of techniques, tactics, and procedures. You can also try to trace the identity of the attacker or even attribute him to known APT. So the complexity of it usually goes beyond the simple application of OSINT. In the case of forensics, we usually have some kind of identifier obtained from devices or traffic and owned by suspects. The ultimate goal here may be not only in the field of counteracting cyber attacks, but in the form of de-anonymization of person of interest or identifying groups of criminals associated with these identifiers. Attack investigations include such typical tasks as determining the real IP behind Cloudflare or another CDN, as well as finding the owner of the site. It can be a phishing site or a hacked or vulnerable one if we want to contact its owner and report. Brand protection tasks usually differ in the direction of constantly monitoring the emergence of malicious entities such as fake accounts, phishing sites, and so on. And finally, the category which we include pentesting, asset management, and so on. Sometimes it's just a part of due diligence process. So exposure management includes collecting information about all the attack surface, all company resources, IPs, domains, subdomains, accounts in social medias, and so on, vulnerabilities, entry points. So what about sources of information? Of course, there are lots of different sources, different platforms, including some open source and proprietary. If we are talking about malware analysis, so we have some well-known guys like VirusTotal or MISP, open source threat intelligence platform, and we can get some indicators like hashes, attributes of threat actors, and so on from these sources. About threat intelligence at all, we have also OpenCTI, like open source threat intelligence platform, and MISP, and many proprietary sources like providers of antiviruses and so on. And it's usually very easy to integrate your product and your system with these systems with just maybe information feeds. Network infrastructure map, I think I shouldn't explain what is Shodan, what is Senses. There are lots of different platforms, and you can make your own with a big amount of different tools for scanning how the IPv4 network, or maybe V6 also. What about vulnerabilities? It's not so difficult to get information about classifications of vulnerabilities, products, and there are lots of open source and even free transforms in Maltiga that allowing you to connect IPs and ports got with some transforms from Social Links Professional, for example, and link it with common weaknesses, common products, and common vulnerabilities. And of course, whose information is very important in case of OSINT investigations in cybersecurity. And here, the main source of information in my mind is historical data aggregators who store information before the GDPR and from different sources, allowing you to trace the activity for the domain for a long time ago. And a couple of words about typical tasks we are faced with. Of course, the main ones is enrichment of digital footprint of cybersecurity actor in case of digital forensics, cybercrime investigations, and so on. And we are helping to make a social media search, searching links with a identity search agent of social links with a Darko. We are able to search lots of information about torrents and even understand who's behind the IP based on this information. And of course, we can help to trace developers of some malware through GitHub. Brand protection cases are very often. And here we had two small subtasks: search for fake sites domains, search for similar accounts sites, and it could be achieved with a usage of social media search of usage some sources like SSL, certificate transparency logs, and so on. Usually we have some small subtasks like get a real IP address behind the domain or get an owner of a site, and we have different approaches here. I guess Ivan will show you some of them. Of course, we often have some things like researching the network infrastructure, not just understanding the attack perimeter, but understand the whole situation for some entities like legal entities or maybe some persons who maintain some infrastructure and so on. And about malware analysis, like I said before, we have some open source TI platforms and proprietary ones, and also GitHub like a source for also very big amount of different malware products, if I can say so. So how SL Pro can help? I believe that in case of digital forensics and incident response, enrichment of digital footprint of target is the most important and valuable activity that can lead you to person, to group who conducted some criminal activity, and you can make it starting from such entities like IPs, domains, email addresses, phone numbers, and so on. So it's a universal approach, but very useful in case of digital forensics. So about data leaks, we are able to provide the full content of leaks, search for the first mentions in dark web. So we can allow to make this ability like a part of process of continuous monitoring of exposure assessment of organization. About network infrastructure, we can help to understand who's behind the site and IP addresses, very common tasks in this field. And brand protection, as I said before, searching for fake accounts and phishing sites. And for all directions, we are helping to structure the obtained information in the form of a graph. So you will get insights about key entities, and you will prioritize your work, and your investigation will be more efficient, and you will make it faster. So again, about our product, I remind you that you can get 10% discount if you will scan this QR code, and will tell during the demo to our managers that you visited our webinar. So don't forget about it. And then we will have some case examples. Ivan, can you join me?
Yes, Dmitry, thank you very much for the intro. So now we will go through a number of examples, and please tell me if you can see my screen now.
Yes.
Okay, great. And we will start with the first one, where as an input, we have an IP address. And we launch a machine made mostly of social links, but also standard multi-go transforms to see potentially what is related to it. And one of the things that we see so far is this string from the social links identity search engine with an email address and a name of this individual, of a certain individual that has used it previously. And further, we are going to enrich the email which we got from this. This is something that is related to the topic of person of interest research. So we get an identifier and we further spin to see what's connected to it, and what, based on that, we can tell about the person potentially involved in a certain kind of activity. So we quite quickly get social media accounts, stated locations from those profiles, addresses, photographs, and the fact of accounts existing in various platforms. We can see locations such as Santiago, which is the capital of Chile, and the country Chile in general. And now additional details are being extracted from those profiles, as well as also the reviews connected to this Gmail, to the Google ID. And we'll just wait a few more seconds for this script to finish. And now we're going to extract some more from what we already have. So the timestamps and GPS stamps from the Google reviews, the Twitter account of the person in question, for each of the objects here, we can see their properties, such as for this LinkedIn profile. Or for this Netblock, from which we got an additional IP address, which is also Chilean. Or the URL 23people.io, which we can see in the LinkedIn account description occupation section. Now we're going to go to the URL, to the network and domain information for that source. There are, of course, possibly many questions already at this point. We will answer them closer to the end of today's session. But one question that I can see right now, can Maltego still establish the correct IP address when suspects make use of VPN? In case there is a VPN being used, we will likely see a tag telling us that this is a VPN, or that this is a proxy, or that this is a Tor node. Now, for another one, and that is actually one of our strongest points as a vendor, that is social network analysis. For example, when we go into Facebook or Instagram or any other social media, and we look for connections that the person has within that platform. And the same principle is applicable to GitHub also as a platform. So here we have a profile of a person, and we're going to get their network of followers and followees, the organizations, repositories, repository start, and general user details. I can see a comment about Maltego not being quite useful to enterprises. Well, maybe, but there are quite a bit of law enforcement agencies and large companies that use it. But for those that don't, there is i2Analyst Notebook, where SL Pro is also available. Now here we can see the following accounts. We will do the same action with them to see if there's a social intersection. And we have the repositories of this user. And this was an individual from Brazil who has created several online communities and a local cryptocurrency called Bolsa Coin. Now, for each of those repos, we'll get its contributors, forks, content, details, stargazers, and subscribers. Now we can go to the directory content as well. And this person actually has the same stated location within their GitHub account as the owner of this profile within their LinkedIn and within their Google ID. Well, in many reviews, at least. And we can structure this information and look at it from several possible angles. For example, those two users have the widest diversity of descent here. And this specific one has a variation of the Pepe frog, a slightly different one from this here. And we can further go from the alias entity and do research in additional sources. One of the things that we can see is that the friends of the account sharing the same alias with the GitHub profile also have locations stated within several places in Brazil. And there are several emails that come out from ISC, and we're going to enrich them now. We can see a question that is quite common. How can we find info on private social media profiles, for example, within Facebook? Of course, if a profile is set to private, then we won't be able to extract as much, but it's quite a common practice for people to have an account closed on one platform and an account open on some other one, something that we see frequently. So we run a cross search based on the things that we already know about the profile, such as the username, the screen name, an image, which can also be a photograph, in which case we can use facial recognition, into other platforms. And besides social media, we also have corporate sources, dorking capabilities, data scrapes, dark web, and other kinds of categories. So now we see a profile within LinkedIn and a Google ID. And the most frequent place in the reviews is Curitiba, which is also the same as within this LinkedIn. And within this GitHub profile information. And by extension, there are several locations here that are related to Brazil. Now, a very similar kind of principle can be applied when we're researching an organization, whether it be in the scenario of the recon stage of pen testing, or in-depth due diligence, or an assessment on one's own organization. Here we have an example of the National Bank of Uzbekistan, and we have several possible inputs. First, the company name, of course. So we'll run several queries here. We see an output within OCCRP, National Bank for Foreign Economic Activity of the Republic of Uzbekistan. And we see several LinkedIn profiles, corporate profiles. And some Google output. Let's see if it's related to any social media that we cover in depth. For reverse image searches, we use Google Lens and Yandex Images. Now we have also a Google Advanced Search Entity input here, and we input the name of this bank in the native language of the country, and we can look for Excel files with that specific phrase. Which can, of course, be often quite interesting. Something that reads statistics, payment systems. And additionally, we will look for PDF files, of course, also. Next, we have the domain name, from which we will try to get the email addresses of employees, as well as corporate PDF files. We get 10 emails so far. We'll try to look for social media from them. To see how exposed digitally those people are. Also, we can see the metadata for some of the PDFs, such as their offers or which software was used to make them. Yes, the recording will be available after this webinar. And we can also do specified social media searches, such as the name of the bank, the time frame, and a specific location. And we can do so within Facebook. This similar thing can be done for other social media also as well. A general search entity. And the GPS coordinates and a certain set radius of the head office of that organization to look for social media activity within that radius. And one thing that we forgot is mapping the network infrastructure, which we can do based on the domain name. Let's take this to a separate graph to avoid unneeded messiness. This gives us the website, name servers and mail exchange servers, various subdomains. Then those are for the resolved to IPs. Yes, we do work with some law enforcement in the EU, and there is a white paper available in case you would be interested in that. We can also try for data related to SSL certificates and use census as part of our extension. Here we get the time frame of validity and the issuers of those certs. As well as the general data from census on the related IP addresses. So now those are a number of IP addresses from the Alien Vault open threat intelligence platform, a feed from a small network of honeypots. And now let's get some details on those IPs here. And we're going to use census. We're going to search for any torrents being shared from those IPs. We're going to search into SLISC and GitHub files. There's a poll now, so please answer the questions there. Sometimes we can get user agents and device models from SLISC after querying an IP addresses, and we see some GitHub repositories and files where those are featured, as well as the general data about them, such as the autonomous systems and working ports. And from one of those, we also see a torrent. It's a South Korean address. Let's get the owning company of this AS. And from the torrent, we'll go to the first IP addresses that shared it and to the peers and make a general Google search about it. And look for other torrents previously shared by those IPs. All of them seem to be, well, part of them seems to be South Korean and part Japanese. And also from Taiwan. So East Asia in general. A similar thing can be done here. So this is a Netblock that we stumbled upon in a recorded future research paper related to internet usage in the DPRK. And all of those are related to Beirut and to a company Sadgate LLC in Lebanon. An instance of using Whois in researching and looking for an owner or a person related to a certain website. There were two domains that were both sitting on this IP. And there was a single email address in the Whois data for both of them. And the websites were also quite similar visually, of course. So now what we see connected to the email is a Skype account, but also gives us a name, Victor Nwadinobi, an ISC record telling us Green Mouse Victor. From Skype, we get the location of Lagos, Nigeria. And we also see that there are Instagram and Twitter accounts existing connected to the email. So we can further run a search for that specific individual, a more broad search. We took the part of a domain name, green mouse. And we get green mouse technologies. And Facebook ID, Victor.Nwadinobi, which gives us Victor green mouse Nwadinobi, from which we can go further. This gives us a matching location of Lagos, Nigeria. The LinkedIn corporate accounts also say so. The company, Green Mouse Technologies, and eventually a phone number, which we can enrich in a very similar principle to what we did with emails previously. We see the same Skype that we already had, from which we got the name. We see another email, which seems to be personal in this time, Gmail. A true color record with a closer photograph of the face. And with this email in it. A WhatsApp profile, Green Mouse Technologies, which tells us that this person is seemingly a webmaster, highly likely, supposedly, to having been related to developing those websites that we won from initially. And this in general is an example of searching for a person of interest based on whose data and deepening the information that we have about them. In the end, we also found Instagram using facial rec, the same account from both Facebook and LinkedIn profiles that we had within this graph. In some instances, it may be relevant to do research on a cryptocurrency address in today's cyber context. From this Ethereum address, we first get the general details, then the final destinations and initial sources, all of the related money transactions. So we built a transactional graph. And further, we can search for mentions of this address in various sources. Among other things, this gives us a Telegram message in an open group. We can see the author of the message and the group itself. From the author, we can go to the other groups they are present in or have historically messaged in. And another, this can in some ways be related to context of a cyber investigation. when we try to do in-depth research on a social media profile that perhaps doesn't disclose the identity of a person, we can try to get insights about their personality. So, for instance, this Twitter is owned by a person who has initially developed a platform, a quite famous one called Dogspin. And there are some tweets and some retweets here. And within the personal tweets, what we can see, the pattern, is a lot of posts related to topics of religion, history, Bible, mythology, and the object-specific sentiment within those posts. So let's take, well, as well as other topics, but let's take those and the entities that are between them. And the name here is actually a Hebrew word for serpent. And that was the username used by the person in all of his online activities. So this can tell us something about the personality of the person, potentially about their background. So yes, we're coming to the end of the webinar now. I hope this was interesting for you. Now, some of the questions that we can answer. Let's say we have a suspected website URL. This is a very interesting question. Dmitry has just shared a slide with our COE team. So if you want to discuss that in more detail, then please contact us via that email indicated there. We'll be glad to discuss your topic of interest and a problem that you might potentially have. Thank you very much. And we have shown just a specific fraction of what we can do. We have been showing this in one solution, of course, in the context of cyber, in the context of real research, a person would be using a wider variety of tools. But we were showing the capabilities of Social Links Pro specifically, as well as some other extensions available within Maltego, which can be intercomplementary, both between themselves and between all of the other things that an investigator or an analyst can use. Thank you very much for your time today, and wishing you a good day and a good week ahead.
Oh, Alan, by the way, I will go into answer some questions in Q&A section. We have 6 open now.
And yes, before that, we will go to them. Can Maltego be used for digital marketing research, and how? Yes, due to the universality, well, Social Links Pro can be used. Maltego is much more focused on infrastructure. It can be used due to its universality for assessments of socio-demographic portraits, for assessment of social media activity, for assessment of affinity to specific brands, specific values, specific positioning. Yes, the webinar recording will be available. Can we receive a digital certification for attending this webinar? This has been asked several times before. I think that we're on our way already due to this kind of feedback to institutionalizing a certain kind of digital certification. So thank you for that. Are we able to track Bitcoin wallet addresses to a specific person? In some instances, yes, but there are vendors that are more focused on that, but we're quite complementary potentially to, there are cases where people have approached an investigation that isn't categorized as a conventional financial or money laundering investigation, but that has been approached from a standpoint of a financial investigation. For example, the famous case of the welcome to video that has been solved by several people, one of which was then at the American IRS, but eventually became the head of investigations at Binance. And they were coming from that perspective. But the element of researching people and their connections via various sources, including Sockment, segment-specific sources and corporate registries that will also be relevant if you obtain some kind of lead as a result of some part of the process of doing blockchain analysis. So yes, but it's not always very easy. I hope that answered your question.
And 2 more questions we have, and I think it will be.
What other products do we have which work like SL Pro? We have Social Links as an on-premise solution, which is a different thing. We can, if you are already using another interface or you have your own proprietary one, then you can use Social Links API, which we can talk about personally in more detail. And recently on one of the security conferences in Europe, we have presented a solution that we are on the final stages of making, which will be a bit different, but more user-friendly perhaps than some of the existing graph analysis platforms, although they are very great and effective. Maybe that is something that will also be relevant. Will it assist me to follow the money in crypto wallets for identifying illegal funding? Yes, especially in Ethereum.
Cool. So, thank you all the participants for coming.
Great. Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.